would a new COP look like? What changes would you make?
Thank you. This is not very easy one. But yes, what I would do if I had the power, I would first say to all colleagues, leaders of the world, that, hey guys, what about if we now do what we have promised to do? And then secondly, I would collect a group of people from science and people from business and asking them to think carefully what are the means where we can best serve nature and green economy and in the same earn best money. And this is because I have a strong belief that if business people, business world, finds out that, well, there's a possibility that will happen too. So combining in a way the knowledge of what nature needs and the instinct of making money. Something like that I would do.
That sounds perfect. So now let's talk about the architect. And I know that for you who don't know, the architect is often called the planet's refrigerator because it plays a very key role in Earth's atmosphere and climate. When you look at what is happening with the change of atmosphere and the change of the climate, to what extent do you believe that we need to pay and put more attention on what's happening in the Arctic, and especially when it comes to a topic that you always talked about, which is the black carbon? So tell us a little bit, how does the black carbon impact Earth's atmosphere and climate?
Yes, Arctic area as well as Antarctic area in the south, they are ice and snow covered. When we talk about Arctic, I want you to know that the fate of Arctic doesn't concern only Arctic, it's global. If we lose the Arctic, we lose a lot. Consequences will be very, very bad. So the climate is warming in the Arctic 4 times faster or more than on average in globe. So the main issue is surely how to avoid warming up. But you refer to black carbon, and that's a very interesting question. Black carbon is soot, and it doesn't directly raise the warmth of the air, but what it does is that when black carbon covers snow and ice and sun is catching that black, so it means that snow and ice will melt more rapidly than just because of the air is warming. And what causes this black carbon? There's a strange element of flaring. Flaring means that in certain oil fields, they gets in the same time extra gas, and they flare it, burn it at that place. And it's enormous amount of gas being flared. And when it's burning the gas, it is spreading the soot and black carbon. The amount of flaring is some 150 million cubic meters per year, and that is equivalent to the whole consumption of African gas per year. So it's huge amount of gas, and it's a double loss in a way. The gas brings that suit around, and on the other hand, it's very valuable gas, burning for vain.
Yes, so obviously the Earth climate and the topic of climate change depends on governments and as well depends on corporates, depends on households as well. One of the things that we keep reading about throughout last years is that we hear a lot of pledges, but we don't see measurable actions happening when it comes to these pledges. What in your mind would actually close the gap between what pledges are being made and the actual actions?
First of all, we need a kind of mindset that more and more people understand that climate change is a crucial challenge and threat to us. And if people, ordinary people, understand this and demand their governments to do better, that happens, because governments usually do what they are demanded to do. And on the other hand, every individual can, in his or her own behavior, also have an impact. As an example to neighbors, and living in a way also such a life you're demanding from others. And for example, in Finland, very many households have on the roof, believe it or not, in Finland, even solar panels, even though we do not have that much sun at all, like we see here. But nevertheless, my home in Finland is warmed up with thermal energy, and we have air heat pumps, very, very many in our homes. So starting from yourself, then it's easier to demand also others and governments.
And I think this speaks as well of mentality that people need, and households, people need to have a certain mentality when it comes to protecting the planet's Earth and actually contributing to the topic of climate change. And I want you to share with us some of the lessons that the world can learn from Finland when it comes to climate change.
Like I said earlier on here in my speech, in Finland we have always, or we have had to live in conditions of the nature, forests, waters. Waters have to be clear. Forests, you have to take care of that. Even though you use quite a lot of wood, you have to be careful not to reduce the sink they form, the sink which is swallowing all the time carbon. That is what forests do. So an attitude where you respect nature is surely important. But I want to underline that when we talk about climate change, we are also protecting ourselves.
When you look at what is happening now globally, we're talking about geopolitical tensions, we're talking about economic challenges many developed countries are facing, and so governments are putting other priorities on their agenda rather than just focusing on climate change. Their agenda is more focused on protecting the economies from stagflation, trying to deal and to cooperate when it comes to geopolitical tensions with other countries and other governments. So climate change is not a top priority for many governments now. Do you worry about that?
Yes. First of all, like we all know, we have conflicts, even warfare, very, very bad crisis is going on, and it is kind of understandable that they take our well, we notice them and live quite a lot following them. Then you refer to economic and financial problems which many countries are facing. Yes, it's also a severe thing. But I have always pointed out, I made a report to European Union on security and always wanted to underline that even though security and peace are important, we must not forget the climate change and how we manage to stop it. What comes to finances and what governments do and what they are not doing, then comes the opinion of ordinary people, voters, saying that we want you to fight against climate change. And if such a demand is put forward, I believe governments do that.
We talked earlier about the cooperation and having a shared mentality between governments and households and corporations as well. To what extent do we need the same with regards to governments? I mean, when I look at what happened in the last 10 years, the United States, with different administration, had different agenda when it comes to climate change, and especially now with Mr. Donald Trump in office. So to what extent do we need the US on board with us to fight climate change? Does the world need that?
Yes, for two reasons actually. One is that yes, USA is using a lot of fossil energy and then causing a lot of from the climate change. And on the other hand, the smaller ones, you often hear that, well, what we do, it has no meaning because of those big ones are not taking care. So we need it also as an example. Also China was mentioned often as a heavy polluter. But what we have seen in China is actually quite positive at the moment. They have created very rapidly renewables and hope they continue that.
So let's talk about the under-addressed risks. So if we mention black carbon, permafrost, or methane, which of these, or maybe other that you consider to be under-addressed risks to climate change that we need to focus more on and prioritize?
As long as gas is flared, I think black carbon is underestimated badly, but also the melting of permafrost is very, very actually dangerous. That happens mostly in Siberia, Russia, and it's not only methane which comes up, but even villages, even towns may suffer badly because they are built on permafrost. And if it melts, you lose your houses.
Of course.
So it's a very severe and even dangerous phenomenon.
Yeah, because when we talk about climate change, this is not only about the global atmospheric impacts of climate change, but we have to talk also about the solutions and how does that impact our lives, household lives. So when you look at enough innovation when it comes to solutions, especially now that we are on the era of AI, so to what extent do you think that this is going to be something positive for governments to fight climate change?
I think a lot. And actually, artificial intelligence is developing so fast and to such dimensions that I do not believe that we even know at the moment where we are going. That might help so much. Same fits the quantum technology. But on the other hand, they demand a lot of energy. These data centers, huge ones, which are under construction all the time. And if we think to win with AI something, we have to take care that whatever it needs energy is produced from renewables. Otherwise, we lose the game.
Yeah, of course, because AI will demand a lot.
Yeah, even the benefit is negative if it's
Yes,
using a lot more
so
energy.
just to highlight what we're talking about here, so AI is, of course, about data centers and the innovation and technology of AI. It demands a lot of energy. We're talking about, I think, for data centers, around 10 gigawatts. Imagine that this 10 gigawatt is approximately electricity and energy at peak times in a city like New York. So we're talking about that much energy. So what we're saying here is that we have to be also careful about the usage of AI because it can backfire, causing more harm than good.
Yes, that might happen. And, well, we do not want to create anything which gives a negative result.
Impact, negative net results.
Yeah.
So let's talk about green financing, green projects. We're hearing a lot of new terminology when it comes to climate change. To what extent do you think that companies are doing enough to be, a private sector I mean here, is doing enough to be and to play a key role in fighting climate change?
I have a feeling that we all could do a lot more, and companies too. But on the other hand, certain companies understand very well that it might be also a possibility of doing business, like I started with, to innovate how we can develop more renewables, how we can enhance the green economy. It's also a source of business if you do it right.
Yeah, of course, because for corporations, they will think that to build this project, I need to look at the return this project is going to give me, because for them, it's about investors, it's about money at the end of the day. It's not only about fighting climate change. Where do you see opportunities for growth?
Almost in every sector. We heard today that starting from agriculture, for example, producing food, there's huge possibilities of saving energy and producing more. So starting from there, then, like we talked about AI, that gives huge possibilities to help human life, to enhance it. And I have to confess that I don't, and I believe that many others don't exactly know what kind of huge possibilities it will offer when it develops.
Yeah.
So something like this, I would say.
We talk about the global headlines, mainly when it comes to green financing and green projects and fighting climate change, comes from developed countries, not from emerging markets, not from developing countries. Do you worry about that? To what whose responsibility is it to make sure that for developing countries as well, they do enough to fight climate change, to close this gap between the two, developed and developing countries, when it comes to their pledges and their actions?
Yes, and basically, surely we have heard estimations or critics even that who actually has caused the start of climate change and who is responsible because of that.
To fix the problem they caused.
Yes, so it's a complex thing, and I do believe that developed countries surely have to confess their responsibility and act like that. And I have seen also such act.
What would you like to see in COP30?
First of all, I would like to see a very severe feeling of whatever is promised is also meant to do. That's most important in my opinion. And finding a spirit of understanding that actually, in spite of all the other problems we have, this is our common task and we do it together. Some spirit like that.
when you look at the past 30 COPs, or 29 COPs, and you look at where we are today in 2025, do you think that enough progress has been made?
Yes, I attended some of those COPs, for example, in Paris, where a lot of promises was given. I would estimate somehow that, yes, a lot has happened, but not enough, and not that all that which was promised to happen. So we have a long way to go still.
Let's make headlines here today. So if you are to send message to governments around the globe here from World Green Economy Summit around the importance of fighting climate change and what needs to be done and the pledges that are being made, what would that message be?
Well, I think taking notice to what politicians consider being important is to tell that if you want to continue, you have to act now.
You have to act now.
Yeah.
And this is a global responsibility.
Yes.
It's not the responsibility of one economy. Do you think that this topic is becoming more political than before, in the sense of, looking past the previous 20 or 30 years, we never heard politicians or political parties mention climate change as we do today. So considering that a lot of politicians today are coming out and kind of advertising their climate agenda and what they want to do to climate change, do you think that this is something that we need more of today, or do you worry that this is something that should not be politicized?
Well, at the end, it is a political question what governments do, so it has to be discussed. But in spite of the fact that you said that you hear more and more governments and politicians saying that we have to do something, we still hear voices that it's nonsense. So I think it is important that those people have voted for politicians, that they clearly tell people what they consider being important and what they are doing. But at the end, it's, like I said, it's also in the hands of ordinary people to demand, I will not support if you don't do this.
I want to ask you one last question because we still have only 5 minutes remaining. Yep. When you look at Corona changed, the pandemic changed a lot of industries, changed how we live, how we depend in technology. To what extent do you think that this also changed how we look at climate change?
Yes, people tend to wake up when it is high time, hope to not too late. But nevertheless, in pandemic, we clearly saw that people were ready to change their behavior because of being afraid of virus. I believe that the more people, unfortunately, experience consequences of climate change, the more those people support fighting against it.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That was, of course, His Excellency Sauli Niinistö, President of Republic of Finland, 2012 to 2024. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us at WGES. We hope to see you next year, and we hope that next year, when we meet here again, you will tell me that you are happy with some actions that have been taken by governments when it comes to climate change. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.